Okay, I am live, looks like, and I have sound. Um, yeah, man. It is 5 minutes till midnight, so we are almost at the 28th, you guys. Tonight's just gonna be not me talking because my voice is kind of cracking and everything. And plus I've been having a little bit of added pain today, so I'm gonna keep it to basically a documentary. Well, it's very informative and it's the absolute truth of what's going on, what's been sprayed in our skies, what's on us, what's in us, what are we breathing in, what is it causing? Are we just Wi-Fi enabled now? We're walking around like antennas, just getting more and more inundated with this technology that we can't even see, right? Um, the fog now, right, is horrible over in California. This is the second year in a row that this is being amped up. I know exactly what it is because I've studied this. Hopefully, you guys will learn from what I'm about to show you. Um, you might not want your kids around. I don't know. There's no like crazy cussing and all that. It's nothing, too outlandish, but it's very informative. It is very straight to the point, very blunt. So, like I'm saying, I'm not talking a lot tonight, so let's get straight into it. Enjoy. Okay.
Hello, everyone. Merry Christmas 2025. Juxtaposition here, and today's video will be entitled Fog of War, comma, Terra Swarm. Right, Terra Swarm, named after Corey Hall in Berkeley, California, in the very center of University of California, Berkeley campus, next to Founders Rock. You will find building 2626 Hearst Avenue. It technically is labeled on the wall next to the front door, Corey Hall, where Ted Kaczynski had the United States Postal Service deliver two bombs to the fourth floor of the five-story building. Um, Everyone on campus refers to it now as the Terra Swarm building because on the fourth floor, they engage with DARPA and RAND Corporation in the creation and machinations of smart dust. Of course, everybody on my channel knows that smart dust, when dumped from military airplanes in the sky, and pollute our breathable air troposphere and create fog and weather modification, aka weather warfare. But the primary purpose of smart dust is not to modify the weather. That's a benefit. But the other primary objective is to augment human beings, turning them into cyborgs, into walking antennas, walking hard drives, basically cellular mobile phones without the necessity of having to carry your mobile phone with you. You will be converted into a walking hard drive, zombie, a augmented human. And a lot of people don't seem to understand or grasp what augmentation means. There is a military definition for it, and we'll explore that today. You should know that everything in our world revolves around Swiss bank authority, centralized authority in Geneva, Switzerland, and military methods and means. Military methods and means, which includes terms such as PAVPAWS, which is another military acronym, CRISPR, which is another military acronym, and neuromodulation, infrared, terahertz versus microwaves, and terahertz are sub-millimeter waves. They are one millionth as long as a average microwave, which is a millimeter to 2 inches long, 1.5 inches long. A microwave can be. We are familiar with microwave cell towers atop our hillsides and office buildings and churches and hotels in our cities. There are 5G towers, right? Yeah, big ones on the hillside and miniature ones in the city up close near the city center and the parks. blurring out energy, radiation energy, electronic magnetic resonance, right? But today we have a 1 million times worse problem than you thought you had. It's at least a million times worse. Now we have smart dust. Smart dust are mesogens, they're MIMS and MIMOs, they're operated by MOSA and SOSA, and they are wireless sensor networks, and they are in your lungs, in your nose, in your skin, under your skin, in your bone marrow. And thus a wireless sensor network becomes a biological sensor on your person, known as biometrics, which goes nicely with your Real ID verified, right? Real ID verified. That gives you a MAC address. When you have a Real ID verified, you have a media access control address. Okay, now let's circle back at the part of the matter. What is human augmentation? Please explain juxtaposition, since you'll notice that Tucker Carlson won't, Anthony Napolitano won't, Rachel Madcow won't, Stupider Peters, born on April Fool's Day, 1980. April Fools, hello, are you paying attention? Stu Peters won't tell you. Dr. Jane Rubenstein, she won't tell you. Who else? Sean Hannity, he won't tell you. Bill O'Reilly, he won't tell you. Andrea Mitchell, she sure as heck not going to tell you. No one on the media, including Newsmax or on YouTube videos, are you going to see what you're going to hear from me today regarding human augmentation, which is the core at the center of the matter at hand regarding TerraSwarm. TerraSwarm is what they call it on the Berkeley campus. They call it TerraSwarm because it is. It's full spectrum dominance. It's inescapable and ubiquitous. That's TerraSwarm. That means in your soil, in your water, in your air, in your sky, in your automobile, when you turn on your air conditioning or your ventilation system, you are consuming aluminum chalk, arsenic poison, magnesium, titanium, lithium. I said lithium, strontium, et cetera, whatever else they want to put in the recipe. Anyway, what you should know is it's about human augmentation, and it certainly can modify the weather. We're going to get to that in a moment. But the primary goal is to turn you into a walking hard drive. All right, according to sources like Statistica, the global market for converting human beings from biological into augmented people, the biodigital convergence, that's what that's called. They don't want to use the term human augmentation, so they come up with concealment terms: biodigital convergence, Agenda 2030, the Great Reset, climate change, COVID, hoax, pandemics, plandemics. They use plandemics of bird flu, monkeypox, Asian flu, the flu, and the fake flu called coronavirus. A spy satellite program operated by Hughes Space and Communication, TRW, and Lockheed. Anyway, what I wanted to tell you is that they've weaponized the conversion of humans into robots by creating a market for the corporations to make trillions of dollars converting humans into machines. Right? It's machine to brain, computer to brain interface. Computer to brain interface is not human to computer. It's the HAL 9000 bossing around and sending commands, sending directives to the human robot. It's a one-way street. I understand it's a multiple system of duality, but they want to control us, pacification and control using computers.
Watch what magnesium does to your bowels.
If you have to wipe 1,000,000 times after you poop, here's why.
The Mayo Clinic confirms that stuck poop can cause these embarrassing skid marks in your undies. You see, when stuck poop causes...
It's called computer to brain interface. Natalie Wood and Christopher Walken did a movie about this in 1981 called Brainstorm. It got Natalie Wood murdered, drowned in the Santa Catalina estuary there off of California in Los Angeles County, even though it's technically off of San Diego County, but that's another subject for a different video. Anyway, right now, the money market for corporations in 2024 was $206 billion a year. I'm just going to tell you on the Juxtaposition channel, think in terms of 5 trillion a year to 10 trillion a year. I mean, that's what they're spending right now, dumping this pollution, smart dust on us. I'm estimating that they're spending, at least $6 trillion a year to dump all this stuff. Me, myself, and I here in Sonoma County, Northern California, North San Francisco Bay Area, they've spent $113 billion over the last 3 years just polluting my area. 100 airplane sorties per day, 16 hours per day. There's an 8-hour lull that's broken into 2 pieces, 4-hour lull, then noise, then another 4-hour lull for maintenance. The airplanes require maintenance or they'll fall out of the sky. But anyway, what I'm telling you is we got 100 military attacks per day with unmarked planes. They all work for NATO. They all work for Switzerland. Our sheriff's department doesn't care. I've talked to them about it. They're not concerned about it. They're concerned about people who are concerned about it, but they're not going to do anything about it because, in case you didn't know, and if you're from Australia or you're from United Kingdom or you're from Canada or you're clueless, you should know that the sheriff's department, the district attorney, all the maritime law satanic judges, they all work for NATO. 100%. It's where their paychecks come from Switzerland. The United States of America is insolvent, has no money, cannot make a payroll. So all the money that runs our budget is borrowed. Most of the money is borrowed. I mean, we owe, in correct accounting, the United States owes $74 trillion minimum. I'm probably underestimating it. And we only lose 2 trillion a year. So there's absolutely no possibility that we can repay the $74 trillion. Can't be done in any person's lifetime. All right. Then Gartner Research says that that after 2024, there'll be an over 50% increase as more corporations will adopt the human augmentation technology, which will emphasize and increase the integration into more and more industries and sectors. There's another data collection company called SE Rush Data says that there's a 35% year-over-year increase in searches related to the human augmentation topical area, which highlights a growing interest and awareness from the general public regarding this transformation or field. I don't think the public's interested in this whatsoever. There are some concerned citizens who are opposed to it. Me being number one, I'm opposed to all form of human augmentation. I'm opposed to athletes taking hormones. I'm opposed to high school kids taking hormones. I'm opposed to human augmenting through pharmaceuticals. And so I'm 10,000 times more negative toward electrical engineering of humans, the combining of biology with electrical engineering. That's what this is, right? It's microbiology and combining it with electronic magnetic resonance, ultrasonic sound, and photonic optogenetic light energy. And using the sun's energy against us, using light emitting diode LED lights against us, using Bluetooth and Zigbee communication devices in your car. If you're using this thing, stop the madness. Turn your cell phone off, bundle it up with aluminum foil, and ditch it in the back seat of your car or the trunk. Try to stay away from your cell phone as much as possible. Stay away from using the techniques of your car. Your car is full of transponders and sensors, if you didn't know. That's been going on since the late 1970s. Anyway, you know that this is on the rise. It's being foisted upon you. This is not a democratic process. Nobody cares what you think. I'm just telling you that Switzerland's directing all the corporations of the world and all the banks and all the private banks of the world to go 100% full throttle toward the augmentation of people. Human augmentation encompasses a wide range of technologies which are aimed to enhance humans' capabilities, from prosthetics to genetic engineering. Let me edit and correct that sentence, designed to murder you or to trace, track, and target you, real ID verified, and to lock you out of non-compliant activities. So if you ever wanted to have your entire life programmed, including your date of death, they can put in your date of death. They won't tell you what it is, but it'll be baked into your DNA. They want to combine your DNA with your money. That's called tokens, social obedience tokens. And then they want to GPS geofence you to see where you are, where you're sleeping, where you're doing your activities of daily living. And if they don't agree with how you run your life, they will disable your money. They will disable your token. So you won't be able to buy gasoline. You won't be able to pay for a hotel. You won't be able to travel. You'll be billed for all the kilometers that you drive on the highway. You'll get a bill at the end of the month. They'll just deduct it. They won't ask you to approve it. They'll just subtract it from your token credit account at your HAL 9000 bank. Because they're going to close all the branch banks. So you won't be able to yell and scream and holler at a banker, because they're just you're going to have to call a helpline, and then the HAL 9000 is going to frustrate you in the way that the Zoom assistant, AI assistant, frustrates me every time I log on. I have to disable that thing, although I can't because he says he lives here. I tell it to get lost, and it says, no, I live here. You don't understand. So I minimize the AI assistant. Human augmentation is the merger of technology with biology to enhance capabilities beyond natural limits, spanning areas like prosthetics, brain to computer interfaces, and genetic engineering. Notice that that is a 100% bald-faced lie. It's not brain to computer interface, it's computer to brain interface. So they invert what it really is. That's number one. Number two is they say to enhance your capability. Well, if making you stupid and dropping your IQ and disabling your tenets of thinking and giving you the onset of senile dementia, I don't consider any of those things to be enhancing your capabilities. What they're doing is the reverse of that. Instead of enhancing your capabilities, they are disabling you. They are injuring your DNA through CRISPR and neuromodulation. So I just want to make the point that all the descriptions you'll find on the internet regarding human augmentations are bald-faced lies. It's 180 degrees the opposite of what they're saying. They're not enhancing your capability. They're turning you into a dumb, Google-controlled metaverse zombie, a walking antenna awaiting your next command. Okay, it has nothing to do with prosthetics, has nothing to do with brain to computer communication. It's molecular engineering going from the HAL 9000 warden of your prison, of your Hunger Game, sending you message as the inmate who gets 3 meals a day served by DoorDash in between your Netflix. Let's review some vocabulary words. Everyone on my channel needs to know what neuromodulation means, right? Neuromodulation is the physiological process by which a given neuron uses one or more chemicals to regulate diverse populations of neurons. Neuromodulators typically bind to a metabiotropic G protein coupled receptors, also known as military acronym GPCRS, to initiate a second messenger signal cascade that induces a broad and long-lasting signal. I think you get the picture here. They deliberately, on purpose, give you descriptions written in pig Latin. You should know it's pulsing. Another definition that the Air Force uses is PAVPAUSE. I've done the tour. Show you some pictures of things I've seen up close and personal. PAVPAUSE stands for a phased array warning system. Don't be fooled, people. It's a direct energy weapon. It's an offensive weapon. Everything, when you're at an Air Force base, everything's a lie. They have a cover story for everything. Never bother asking law enforcement or a judge or anyone in military about the weapon systems, because they'll just either don't know or they'll lie to your face. So it's just better to do your own research independently. They don't need to know that you're curious about it. They'll just target you if they think you're a problem. So I just do your independent research on your own. This idea is about pulsing energy out into a phased array. domain in the airspace continuum, right? Everyone needs to know what continuum means. They need to know what cascade means. You need to know about infrared light versus microwave versus terahertz energy. You need to understand CRISPR. CRISPR is another military acronym brought to us by Jennifer Doudna, lives in Berkeley, California. CRISPR stands for clustered regularly interspaced short palindromic repeats. And you absolutely need to know that, because that's what's going on with your brain right now. You're being French fried, not in the microwave oven. Microwave oven are long, 1 millimeter to 1.5 inch long microwave pulses. I'm talking about 6G terahertz, which is 6 million times more accurate and more potent and more disturbing. It's not necessarily more powerful. It's just delivered in a more subtle manner when it's 6 million times smaller length of energy. It's more pulsing, more delivery of individual pulses using CRISPR, neuromodulation, and 6G terahertz is the system that is used today. You're not going to hear the general media talking about 6G terahertz, not going to mention it. But CRISPR is the idea of using a cascade CRISPR complex to modify and injure. When they say modify, I mean to disable or to damage your God-given DNA. You were born as a perfectly organized creature, and CRISPR can only, subtract, cannot add, cannot make you smarter, it can make you stupider. It can disable your tenets of thinking, but it cannot make you smarter. So everyone on my channel needs to know what CRISPR means. Again, clustered regularly interspaced short palindromic repeats. Everyone needs to know what neuromodulation is. Everybody needs to know what molecular communication is. It's actually molecular engineering, but you won't have the media tell you that. Any system where you can communicate over radio waves, like the telegraph or your wireless router in your home, or your cell phone, or the LED lights across the street, or your neighbor's Ring camera, or the smart meters on the side of your house or on the sidewalk outside your apartment building. Those are all molecular communication devices which can perform CRISPR and neuromodulation damaging of your genes. Can go right through the walls of your house. That's the main difference between the microwaves and the terahertz system. The terahertz system can go through the fabric of your clothes and go through the walls of your home, can go through concrete, can go through sheetrock, and go right in your bedroom, right in your bathroom. And it can French fry your brain while you take a bath or while you sleep at night. All right. Last night I heard continuous KC-10 extender jets dumping pollution over my sky. Now it's pitch dark, so you can't see. Number two, it's raining, so you got rain clouds. So I can't see through the rain clouds, and it's pitch dark. But I can still hear those planes 1 o'clock in the morning, 3 o'clock in the morning, 5 o'clock in the morning, all night, dumping aluminum chalk. And the weather in the San Francisco Bay Area is substantially different than the way it was for most of my life. For 50 years, it was very plugged into California weather. And anyway, it's completely manufactured today. The cold days are colder, the hot days are hotter. It rains much more now. We used to have a lot of droughts. We don't have droughts anymore. We have mudslides. We have overwhelmed reservoirs because of the snowpack, and it runs later and longer into the summer. And then we have mudslide activities, and we have fires throughout the whole year. Remember last year we had Pacific Palisades and the Pasadena fires blazing in January 2025. This is, of course, preposterous. So those would be smart meter fires, or the lithium batteries in the electric car fires, or drones, or pause direct energy weapon fires. There's no way Mother Nature didn't cause those fires. There were arson
Scorpius?
eBay.
Limited drop.
They legit?
Guaranteed.
Specifically targeted not to take out Arnold Schwarzenegger or James Wood or Megyn Kelly or Rob Reiner's house, or Conan O'Brien. You notice that none of the premier people in Hollywood had their homes even scratched. They allegedly said Paris Hilton's condo on Pacific Coast Highway burned down. Who cares? She's got 24 houses. Okay. Like fits into the how can I lie to the public deception category. Molecular communication systems use the presence or absence of selected types of molecules to digitally encode messages. Isn't that scary? That's to send the commands to your real ID verified DNA, your CRISPR modified DNA. The molecules are delivered into a communications media such as air and water for transmission. When it rains, the way it did last night and yesterday, they're actually augmenting people at a quicker pace using the rain and the water. The water is a superior way of infiltrating and poisoning people using water. If you're stupid enough to go swimming in this stuff, or stupid enough to ride your bike or go running out in this stuff, if you don't believe me, go out at night with a flashlight and turn the flashlight on and look up. You'll see pollution everywhere. You see, the irony is you can't see it during the day, although the sun is very glaring, and that should indicate that there's a lot of pollution in the sky because the sunlight is bouncing off all the aluminum chalk to neuromodulate your eyeballs and your skin. But at night, it's different. It's actually visible at night. At night, when you have no sunlight, you can add artificial light through this flashlight and you'll see, or the headlights of your car, and you'll see the fog of war. You'll see the fog of war. The fog of war being Terra Swarm smart dust. Terra Swarm smart dust. All right. Everybody needs to know what microwaves are. It's the form of electromagnetic radiation with wavelength shorter than a radio wave, longer than an infrared wave. I'll show you a spectrum that you can check out. All right, you need to understand infrared, which is sometimes referred to as infrared light, IR, for infrared, and has to do with electromagnetic radiation. EMR is electromagnetic radiation, wavelengths longer than that of visible light, but shorter than a microwave. And a microwave is about 1 millimeter to 1.5 inches. The infrared spectral band begins with waves that are just longer than those of red light, and the longest wave in the visible light spectrum. So you need to understand the spectrum of light. You need to understand the spectrum of sound, sonic, ultrasonic, because sound is a weapon. Sound is a weapon. Most sounds your dog can hear, but you cannot. There are many light sources that your dog can see and you cannot. So a dog is a wonderful thing to have with you because as a partner, because the dog will perceive things much quicker than a human will. So animals can see and hear things that humans are oblivious to, right? Molecular communications, very important about the digital encoding of messages and sending them to the right cell tower, or what we call the walking hard drive. Smart dust is a system of many tiny microelectromagnetic systems, MIMS, M-E-M-S, MIMS, that operate with MIMO, maximum input, maximum output. They're sensors that send and receive. They're also robotic. They integrate with other devices, like the smart meters and the Ring cameras and the LED lights. They can detect, for example, light, temperature, embryonic sound waves, vibration, magnetism, and chemicals in your environment. They're in the soil, they're in the air, they're in your concrete, they're in the paint of your crosswalk. Smart dust has been integrated into all paints, okay, and food too. All your animals, all your farm animals are vaccinated as part of the COVID hoax. There was never, ever, ever, ever any deadly virus, ever. There was always radiation poisoning, always. So what they've done is they rebranded Havana syndrome, ringing in your ears, nausea, fatigue. They changed the name to COVID to psych you out so that you would go get a novel vaccine, which isn't novel at all. It's just aluminum garbage put in your body, graphene, aluminum, lithium, titanium, so that now the HAL 9000 can pick you up quicker and easier in the spectrum of the domain known as the Terra swarm. The Terra swarm, ubiquitous and inescapable, full spectrum dominance domain, a cascade of radiation. Anyway, smart desks are operated by computer networks wirelessly, and they are distributed over a large area to perform tasks, which typically involve sensing through radio frequency identification. They work on light, sound, and magnetic resonance. If you have any questions, go to your local acute care hospital. They will show you at the radiology department all the equipment that's militarized. Everything in a hospital was designed in a weapons lab for NATO. And that's what's in the hospital, the MRI machine, CT scanner, the X-ray machine, right? Those are all using invisible energy, invisible to humans, to radiate your body. Without an antenna of much greater size than the range of a tiny bit of smart dust, communication devices are measured in a few millimeters, typically sub-millimeter, using 6G terahertz. We're talking, 1/1,000,000th of a millimeter, 1/1,000,000th. And we're on 6G, which is 6 million times smaller than a millimeter, which is the smallest form of microwave. You're talking about, we're 6 million times smaller. Are you getting the picture that I'm talking about sub-microwave? By a lot, by 6 million times. Concepts for smart dust were emerged from the RAND Corporation and DARPA, Defense Agency for Research Projects, defense armaments. And so it's a military system, and all the universities are included, not just UCLA, not just University of Michigan, which has sex scandals after sex scandals, but of course MIT and University of California, Berkeley, and the Department of Energy. They're all involved with photonic weapons, ultrasonic weapons, linear acceleration, beam bending, proton beams, and of course they're all 100% interested in Terra swarm smart dust, all of them. Everywhere that the RAND Corporation goes, Lockheed is there. University of California, Berkeley brought us Christopher Pister and Joy Weiss. They incorporated a company called Smart Dust. That company has now been consolidated into Analog Devices in Cambridge, Massachusetts. We just had a 47-year-old professor murdered in his foyer. Berkeley is home to Christopher Pister, Joy Weiss, and Jennifer Doudna, who is a Nobel laureate, who is the head of synthetic biology and cellular communications, along with her second husband, Jamie Kate, and he's in charge of Innovative Genome Institute, which is the damaging of your DNA, your God-given DNA. Best networks are used for defense-related security sensor networks like battlefield surveillance. I got news for you. It has nothing to do with defense. It's all offensive weapon. Smart dust is to trace, track, and target all moving creatures. Whether you're vaccinated or not, makes no difference. They will trace, track, and target anything that moves in your neighborhood. Your neighborhood is a battlefield. Your neighborhood is part of a strategic hamlet in a Hunger game. Donald Trump's not involved in this. That's why he doesn't talk about it, right? He doesn't talk. He's instructed, don't talk about this. And RFKJ, he thinks smart dust is jet exhaust fuel. No, it's not. It's nothing to do with jet exhaust. Virtual keyboard sensors, where you have keyboard commandos, can actually move the smart dust around. They can hold it in position. They can migrate it. They can specifically hone in on a target, meaning you. This involves RFID, which is your real ID, radio frequency identification, verification, trace, track, and targeting, hit to kill, when to kill, conspiracy theories. I think we know it is, the whole thing's a conspiracy. It's a huge conspiracy that the media wants to conceal from you. That's the first conspiracy, is that this is not on public newspapers, not on radio, it's not on television, it's not in most books.
Pine, if you hear me, so I took the banner off the bottom, and that's his name is Juxtaposition One, and I think you should be able to see it now, how to spell it. But yeah,
It's not included in the lexicon of terms. That makes it a conspiracy of the worst kind. This is worse than any conspiracy that's ever come before. This is the grandest deception ever. It's a grand deception. All right, let me show you some photographs of what I'm talking about here concerning the fog of war, because it really is diabolical. All right, let me show you some pictures here. Just give me a second and I'll cue them up. All right, so the first thing you need to understand is that we're dealing with the military, right? And there's actually keyboard commandos out there. I took the tour, and these screens, they're really large. They're like 3 feet in diameter. And as I took the tour in 1983, let me get myself out of the picture. And say you have 24 to 30-year-old keyboard commandos that are looking at targets to hit to kill.
Imagine being able to build anything just by thinking about it. Meet Base 44, a complete AI creation platform.
This is the way we used to do it, and this still is relevant. You know, these are 5G radiation towers, and these are on the perimeter of your city. These are in the city center of your city. These are the cell towers all over Manhattan, and all the 3 buildings that I pointed out in Manhattan, New York, earlier, all emit energy from those buildings and bounce off towers like these. But now, because of the smart dust, they bounce off all of the aluminum chalk too. So these systems can still release energy into the sky to scintillate and bounce off the smart dust. Okay, and then these keyboard commandos can use the smart dust to be very precise, trace, track, and targeting you. This is what I'm talking about here. So you see, you got microwave is, you know, I don't like Zoom. It cuts off. There's other parts of the spectrum. My point is, microwaves are on the left. Terahertz is the next advance, which is at least 1 million times smaller than a microwave. Then you got into the infrared area, and then you got visible light way over on the right. So these are, give you some examples. You see microwave is 1 millimeter. It's actually up to 1.5 inches, but the smallest microwave is 1 millimeter. We're over here, we're substantially smaller. We're 1 million times smaller with a terahertz bullet. All right, now let's move on to another spectrum example that I can show you, having to do with sound, because, you know, sound has been weaponized. Not just light, not just magnetic resonance like the MRI machine at your hospital, but also in terms of sound. So here's the spectrum regarding sound. Ultrasonic range diagram. Start out with 20 hertz over there with the low bass notes, and over on the left, and then you have animals and chemistry, medical and destructive use of ultrasound, and diagnostic NDE, and you got 200 megahertz over there on the extreme right. So you have a range of sounds, and 90% of these sounds cannot be heard by humans. Some of these sounds can be heard by doggies, and same too with light in the form of terahertz. This has to do with breaking all of the systems down in terms of sub-millimeter waves. So we're talking sound and light and electronic magnetic frequency can all be delivered on 5G or 6G. And I'm telling you that today, the dominant delivery system is 6G, 6 million times smaller than a microwave, 6 million times smaller. That's why there's so much of it. It doesn't travel well. You can't aim and point the smart dust. It has to be directed, but it's ubiquitous and there's so much of it. It's inescapable. All right. So this is Pave Pause, which I did a tour of one of these. This is one in Rhode Island, but the one I was granted a tour was at Beale Air Force Base in Olivehurst, Linda, California, next to Marysville, part of New Helvetia, Switzerland. It's actually is on Swiss property. Switzerland. Switzerland owns everything. They own all the land. You don't need a big, beautiful bill from Trump to know that Switzerland's in charge. They're in charge of everything. They own Glacier National Park, Yosemite, Joshua Tree, Yellowstone, and they own all the NATO bases. This is what the tippy top of a pyramid looks like. This goes underground, many, many levels. They won't tell me how many levels. I took an elevator down there, and they don't put the numbers on the button. So it's really difficult for me to know. I wanted to know how many levels this pyramid was. This is the only part that's above ground. Everything else, 90% of this thing is underground. The one I went through was on a hillside. So it was right off Chuck Yeager Road, which is an unpaved dirt road with a gun range. All right. Well, anyway, this is an example of CRISPR and neuromodulation. These are all little antennas here, and they are able to deliver a variety of energy pulses into the atmosphere, which today will bounce off all the aluminum chalk, smart dust, terahertz, and what we call the Terra Swarm. This is what these people do, right? This is the World Economic Forum. This is the world of Hollywood. You see the smart dust over the hills of Hollywood above Los Feliz. This is the cult ritual of the Getty family. This is who pays for everything: Credit Suisse, Union Bank of Switzerland. This is who owns the Catholic Church and the Vatican. These are Swiss guards who guard the Pope, and they are aiming for your brain. They're fighting for your brain. And in Washington, D.C., we have an obelisk. Do we not? We have obelisks in your town, too. They're everywhere. Everywhere this obelisk is, Swiss Bank Authority is. That's here, the Swiss Bank Authority. It goes with this. And you do know the World Bank is owned by the United Nations, right? And the United Nations is owned by Swiss banks. United Nations owned by Switzerland, right? And the Pope's guarded by Swiss guards. Is he not? Yeah, he is. This is Ann Wojcinski. She's into 23andMe, wants to collect your DNA so we can open an account over at Credit Suisse so that by 2030 you'll own nothing and you'll be miserable. That is the plan. That is the plan. It's not a secret. It's not a secret plan. Just because television doesn't cover it doesn't mean that this was what my house looked like on Christmas Eve day. What should have been a clear sky day yesterday, they destroyed it all morning, and then it rained the rest of the afternoon into the evening, all night, and it's just a venomous cobra situation. Paris has the Eiffel Tower. That's the tallest obelisk in Europe, as far as I know. That's it. And this is Klaus Schwab, who is their Charlie Manson figurehead. He doesn't run the show. Larry Ratfink is in charge now. Larry Ratfink from UCLA. He's the managing director. He's also the managing director of BlackRock, where you can't handle the truth, right? You can't handle the truth. It's all about the computer to brain interface. It's all about that, right? It's all about the benefits of going to the cloud, AI with Jim Wright. You trust this guy? I don't trust him at all, right? You trust this guy? What is the speed of a person's thought? Doesn't matter. There's no people left. Everybody's augmented now. It was William Casey during the Reagan administration said, "We'll know our disinformation program is complete when everything the American public believes is false." He said that in 1981. I think he achieved that by 1981. Anyone who voted for Ronald Reagan and believed in Ronald Reagan, they were completely mind controlled. What an act. And Ronald Reagan should get an Oscar. He should get an Academy Award. He's an actor, right? He's not a president, not a leader. He's an actor. And you have Rumble Truth Rumble, Truth Social at Rumble. That's for beehive mentality of people with augmented brains. If you're a member of Truth Social, you're delusional. You're completely gone. You'll never be a paid member of my channel. Anyway, that's the world in which we live in. So that's today's video. Hope you enjoyed it. Wanted to remind you, I'll have links below that you should check out, do your own research. And again, the topics that everybody should know is smart dust, wireless sensor networks. Everyone should know molecular communications. Everyone should now understand that human augmentation is the integration of electrical engineering with your biology, and to turn your DNA into a real ID verification. So you'll have a MAC address, and then we will crash the economy and we will crash the currency, and we'll go to tokens from Zug, Switzerland, which is where Jennifer Doudna has opened her CRISPR Therapeutics. And, you'll be run by CRISPR Therapeutics, Smart Dust, Neuromodulation, PayPause, and utilizing 6G terahertz and the 7G equipment. 7G equipment is Smart Dust and mesogens and ring cameras and LED streetlights and Bluetooth and Zigbee and smart meters and ring cameras. That's 7G. Plus your wireless router in your home that you may be listening to this video using. That also is 7G technology, along with your smart refrigerator and your smart TV. They're all
All right, all right, all right. Enough of this guy. Very informative, man, very smart man. Oh man, yeah, yeah. Jeeps. I see you there when you say "we" with a question mark, because I try to tell people that too. I'm like, why do you guys always, when we're speaking of these things, it's like, I guess it's from habit when we say, they're like, oh, we do this, talking about the military, and I'm not, I don't want to be even mentioned with those kind of groups, right? Because I don't believe in murder, for one. I don't believe in you have to resort to violence, right? Or these types of mergers that he just spoke about, and then I'm very passionate about it, right? But it's it's like, when you say we, you just kind of you turn the group into complicit, right, in everything that's wrong that the government, right, or we call it government, right, with that we, right. Exactly. And I don't think, and I say that because I've always been that way. Like, I've never been a part of like group think, and group think that only leads to the thought of either control or profit. Like, it's just not me. I don't, and I don't want to say I don't have it in me, because, I've been in some situations before where I do believe that, I was wrong in, physical and fighting and stuff when I was younger, but, and then, alcohol, which changes your spirit, right? Because they are spirits. But that's another discussion. This guy here is very informative, and he's actually one of the leading people that are fighting verbally, at least, and calling people out, like those that are in control of groups that are being made complicit. Now, with that being said, when I mention the military, there are programs and ways and things that they are forced to take. They're, one, the jab, right? And many rounds of the jab, okay, with different, things that are only progressing this type of technology and merger. And it's actually one of the key chemicals or key, I don't know how it is, like graphene and stuff like these things that when they're stimulated with stuff like, optogenetics and photonics and, these light sensor and acoustic waves that make these building blocks that are put in you actually bond together, and they can be they can form. And when I say, like, these things are bio, these things are, the biosensors are made of other tissue and, um, you know fetus. These things are in there. They're openly admitted in the Pfizer things about these tissue grown sensors, right? That when they're inside of you, it's a foreign body, right? But that can be from towers or from light, with these terahertz waves, can actually make these things, and also magnetics, build these structures that are foreign to your body. And this is why when a lot of people were hit with these type of weapons, they just drop dead. I mean, like, out of nowhere, healthy people, well, a lot of older people that their systems couldn't handle this when COVID was around, and they were doing these experiments. Um, and that's the we that, yes, I agree. I do not want to be, and I jump at people sometimes like, bro, when you say we do this or we go overseas and, I'm like, that's a whole different group than the group of people I want to be a part of, right? Or mentioned with in conversation. So this is why I do these kind of things, guys. And it's, if my account gets frozen or I'm canceled, so be it. Like, it's weird that we would fear something and that make us not tell the truth or tell what we found, at least. And it is a version of a grander truth, I guess. But there are paperwork for these things, right? And it's different when it's a whole different topic when we talk about flat Earth, right? And what let me change this, and what God has and planned for us, right? Let me close this one. And creation. Okay, there we go. Uh, okay, so you can hear me. Hope I don't know what happened there. Um, but yeah, when we're talking about different things, and our the people that we're trying to help and give this information to freely, when they rebel against that, or they just tell us we're wrong, and they give us all these demands like, well, give us these studies, give us these peer reviewed papers, and things like that. Well, with this topic of biodigital convergence and augmentation, right, and smart dust, and just on and on and on, uh, you know I, for one, and other people that I associate with, go and get this kind of studies, these and spend a lot of time, researching and putting together, not just presentations, but merging a lot of different subject matter that can inform others, right? And we don't get paid for this kind of stuff. We just do it to help people. And then when a lot of people just rebel against it, and they're just like, uh, totally against it, and they shut down to this kind of information, that's what I fear, because a lot of people are going to, um, if they don't want free, uh, peer reviewed and like research in this area, and it has to do with their families, their own bodies, like their own mindsets, and what this technology is capable of. Um, that's what's going to, I think a lot of people are are going to go for it because they're told to. Like those, I mean, I know a lot of people are waking up, right? And COVID gave them enough time to research, but they are clamping down on that now with these IDs, and they're going to make you bend to their will just to be online. And if you go against certain, taboo topics, right, that they are politically charged words and phrases, and you're not free to speak about what others do in other countries, and and the genocides that go on, like, we're seeing it. We're seeing it. People are shutting down and they're going along with the program again, even after we're here, just spewing it like from our hearts, bro. Like I genuinely care about people that, you know, um, don't see what I see, because I know how dangerous it is. And I know I've had more time than most people, right? To find this stuff out and to merge it together and just give it away. Like it's not mine to begin with, but it's something I hope people start catching on to. And with that being said, guys, I think I'm going to play one more um, uh, talk. It's not as long as this one, and I'm just gonna sink back into the background and let you guys watch the rest of it. And I may jump in the comments and you know um, talk with people if you guys have questions afterwards. I'll tell you what, if you guys have questions now, let me know. And while I am here on this screen in the comments, and I'd be happy to, if you guys are curious about anything you saw, um, or if you're just joining, we just watched something. It's called The Fog of War, and it has to do with basically smart dust, right? Neuro dust, they call it. That chemtrails. That's exactly what chemtrails are, and they've been dumping it for quite a few years. And they are able to use acoustics and light, terahertz wave type of pulsating and oscillations, which move the ether and move things to either worsen weather or certain chemicals that will, certain mixtures of what they dump can cause different types of effects in the weather. A lot of people call it weather manipulation, but it's really weather warfare. And we're seeing out in California for the second year in a row this fog and how thick it is, and everybody's breathing it in. It's getting in their skin. And I know this sounds kind of dark, like or Orwellian and scary and depressive. If we don't talk about it, we're not going to know anything. And it's going to take us and hit us harder, like COVID did for most people. They had to find out the hard way, right? So I don't see any questions. I'm going to stop yapping. I'm going to go over here and give me 1 second. Okay, guys, I'm going to play a song, and then I'll come back and I'll have the video found by then, because it obviously is not in my tabs anymore. So enjoy the music. This actually is one of my songs. So just give me 1 second. And it's called Wake 'em Up. Uh, so give me 1 second. Okay, where go here? Go back, go back, go back. I talk out loud a lot to myself. They people are smarter when they talk out loud to themselves. I don't know about that, but oh goodness, I'll look at a lot of things. Wow. Okay, never mind. We'll go straight to the documentary, or actually not documentary, but a talk. It's about the ether, right? It's about the background medium. It's about the background medium, and this is how they are able to, basically there has to be a medium for any of this stuff to be, let's call it levitating particles, right? Uh, uh, Through acoustics and stuff like that, there has to be something for the sound to travel across, for one, and two, to be able to cause these type of effects. Um, Magnetics and play a huge part in that. So let me see if I can get it up here. There it is. Okay, I'm gonna play it and I will be here. Yep, watching with y'all. So enjoy. It's very educational. So if you don't know about the ether,
Okay, gotta go to the regular video.
then you're about to know the absolute truth about it. And let's just call it mechanisms of how we know and how it functions. Okay, here we go.
Video here in a second. I'm going to take a look at this first.
Sorry, guys, my hand.
This is just a neodymium ring magnet. I'm going to put the supercell on top of it, and we're looking top down on the field. Let me zoom in a little bit. And here you can actually see three toruses. Of course, the torus is geometry of the donut. Here we actually have the outer donut of the constructive and destructive interference. Here we have the donut of the ring magnet. Inside here, we actually have, once again, this is top down in the field. I'll show you side on here in a second on the most important geometry in the universe. Yes? You see another donut right here and a little hole right in the center there, and everything is spilling right into here. Now, there's nothing here. This is, you know, the hole of the magnet. Now, let's look edge on and using this little cylinder magnet here. Let's put the supercell on top of the cylinder magnet. We're going to look edge on the conjugate field. And we'll look at that geometry in the video here in just a second. You can actually see the concentric rings, and here we'll be looking top down, which of course we can't. We're looking side in. And this is the plane of inertia between the two portals, like AC current lines. And here's the plane of inertia right here relative to the physical magnet. Of course, there's no actual polarity in the magnet. Let's put it on top here. Here you can actually see it. And here's that geometry, right? So now what you're looking at dimensionally. And now let's go to the regular video. Doing there. I saw the video right before the beginning of me, where I was using the supercell and the ring magnet and the cylinder magnet. I got this 4K monitor as a Christmas gift, and I bought a new Mac Mini. It's the one thing I bought for myself. The really reason I could afford to justify it is my desktop computer is from 2016, really old, and this would be a tax write-off. Also, too, the chair that I've been using now for like 15 plus years, of course, is just absolutely horrible. And so this was actually given to me as a gift. It's supposed to be a gaming chair. It's actually really comfortable. Very, very nice chair. Supports everything perfectly. The other chair was actually quite painful. I'm going to talk about the ether and the idea of nothing. And of course, humanity always confuses nothing with not a thing. And as I've said, I can make a laundry list of 200 plus things as a proof of the ether. Yet, modern day so-called science will tell you that there's no such thing as the ether. What they did is you actually have to have a medium, even if it's not actually a medium, to replace the ether with. There's only ever been two postulated. One's been the ether, which is logical, rational, and explains everything very, very simply and beautifully. And the other one is this crazy atomistic idea of space-time. Well, time is only a measure, and space, as Tesla said, has no properties. This is from Electrical Discharges, Waves, and Impulses by Charles Proteus Steinmetz, a guy infinitely more brilliant than Nikola Tesla, believe it or not, and he actually perfected Nikola Tesla's AC generator. Even though it doesn't generate anything, it manifests. It's an arch form for manifesting energy. This is the conjugate geometry of the entire universe. If aliens landed and want to know that we're not, club-wielding unibrow troglodytes from the Stone Age, we could just show them this diagram and then we know at least a little bit more than nothing. Maybe not much more than this. This is actually marked the electrical field circuit, but here you can actually see the cross-section of a donut. You took a donut and you sliced it vertically, you took a half a section, you looked at the cross-section. This is also to the explanation, however, I'm not going to get into that, for the right-hand rule. And the right-hand rule is just a simplex way of saying nature's expression of pressure mediation, as it must. You actually have the dielectric lines, which are inertial, and they're always anti-spatial vectors. And this also, too, is the field of so-called gravity, which itself is not a field. And I have a codex of gravity in the description of this video below, which you can certainly down. It's only 1 page long. It'll take you less than 30 minutes to read it. It's called a codex of gravity that I've written it. Here you can actually see something that we see over and over again, and it's not only the cross-section of a magnet, it's also, too, the cross-section of power lines. Yeah, all these solid lines here represent the magnetic, and magnetic, of course, is centrifugal. The only true force of the universe is magnetism. Dielectric is not a force. You'll see countless millions of videos, including from PhD professors, that'll talk about the force of gravity. Well, gravity is not only not a force, it's a complete and total opposite of force. So, anyway, this is the conjugate geometry. And of course, magnetism is a dielectric field. That's like saying ice is the cold field of water. So this is the most important diagram in the universe. This is the yin and the yang, also too, of the entire universe. We can get rid of that. We can take a cross-section here. This is actually what you saw underneath the supercell at the beginning of this video, which I made that video today. And this is the ring magnet. The actual ring magnet itself is the black here. And we actually have 3 donuts, or 3 toruses. We actually have the donut of the ring magnet, and we actually have the exterior donut of the magnetic field, yeah, which is the curvilinear constructive and destructive interference of the ether and by the ether as it is disrupted from the point source definition of what defines the magnetic field, because a magnet is a point source object. That's the second torus. And the third torus is right here in the middle where nothing is. There's nothing right there in the middle. You know, that's the hollow of the ring magnet. It's like this. Well, there's nothing there. How could you say there's something there? Well, it's because there's no such thing as a field without a medium, just as there's no such thing as waves without a medium. It's completely impossible. However, you'll actually read from these people that light doesn't require a medium. Well, of course it does. Anything with a wave phenomena requires a field. So, and right here in the center, you see another little hole. And that's the dielectric portal towards the plane of inertia, right at the middle of the magnet. Very, very easy. If you know what you're looking at, it makes Mother Nature really, really simple. And if we actually overlay the most important diagram in the universe, we actually get this. We can actually put the magnet, the cross-section right here in red. In other words, the red is a cube magnet. And this is the same field geometry. Yeah. Power is not in the wires. I like to talk about an AC current here in a second, and I'll put them side by side right here. You can actually see it, the dielectric portals. Now, the red lines here represent power lines. Power lines going in the back of your house or the front of your house. This is the field that exists around them. People since the days of Faraday could actually see this, and that's from this picture on the left side here, and anybody could duplicate it by passing current and some iron filings over top of the wires. Now the wires here are marked in white. Here you can see this churning circulatory effect, but it's just this right here. This red box, of course, would be the magnet. The green would be the plane of inertia. So the power is not in the wires, rather, of course, in the field around same. You never do this, by the way. An induction coil is very dangerous around high voltage, high amperage power lines. And your Apple Watch, if you have an Apple Watch, it uses an induction charger. There's no anything passing from one to the other. The problem with using this computer is someone will text me, and it'll send me a text message, so I apologize for that. Nothing is passing between your watch and the induction charger of your Apple Watch. How is it that you could draw enormous, and by the way, don't ever do that, it's dangerous. You could actually stick an induction coil, which is no different than a coil of copper wire that's soldered on either end, and you could get it near an AC current, and it will draw, depending on proximity and the voltage, the amperage, a few different variables. They're not touching anything. You can put it in a vacuum and still have the same effect. You're drawing an enormous amount of current off those generator lines. I thought they told you and me growing up and in school, because they eliminated out the ether, which is impossible, and they replaced it with ideas of force. But force is not a thing. Force of what, by what, and upon what. There's no such thing as force. Force is not a thing. Just as happiness or sadness is not a thing. These are attributes of something else. There's no actual electrons traveling down the power lines, but you could see the current between the power line. This is also, too, the reason why, and people have noticed this back in the day, it's not you'd ever want to be in a lightning storm, but when power lines are struck, the extremely high voltage, and they're also too high amperage, but the extremely high voltage from a lightning strike on power lines will cause, and of course you can see there's a sag in AC power lines from wooden pole to wooden pole. When they're actually struck, the power lines will swing together. Dielectric is to voltage as amperage is to magnetism. I got another diagram right over here. You can actually see it. And it's the same cross-section between the AC power lines. Let's take a look at this. Of course, this yellow cross here would be like a representation of the wooden power lines in your backyard. And this is the exact same diagram between the power lines on an AC power current. Now, you look this up, say magnets are emitting virtual photons. You could ask AI or anything on Google or whatnot the truth of this, and this is what it will say. You can find this all over the place, too, and all these so-called experts will agree to this. This is where this garbage comes from, too, is from them. Yes, magnets interact via the exchange of virtual photons, which are quantum carriers of the electromagnetic force. But these aren't real photons. Real photons don't exist either. I know where they get the idea of the photon from. These are not real photons of light we see. They are temporary field disturbances that mediate out forces. Once again, they've reified the word force. No such thing as force, any more than there's any such thing as happiness. Like somebody is happy. It's an attribute of something else. Force is not a thing. Allowing magnets to attract or to repel without emitting detectable energy. They're virtual, we say, because they can't be observed or measured directly. Actually, they can't be measured at all because they don't exist at all. Existing only briefly due to the Heisenberg uncertainty principle, unlike real photons, which don't exist either, in any way, shape, or form. Unlike real photons, which travel at the speed of light and carry energy. The ramifications and the implications of the ether are undeniable and boundless. They don't want you or I or anybody else to think about such things, and everybody else, including me, is too busy worried about paying the bills and countless other things. All energy comes from counter space. All comes from here. It's like nothing can come from there. There's nothing there. You're holding up a ring. Well, this would be analogous to the ether, which you can't point to. The ether is not an object. It's pure potential. There's a reason why space is the opposite, which people think is real. Modern people are so brain dead and so brainwashed that they think space is real, and it ain't. And the ether is unreal, but it is real. Here's space. The volume of this torus is space, but this is literally nothing. But you tell people that everything comes from this, and they'll say, well, that's not real. There's nothing there. That's where everything comes from, non-Cartesian pure potential, which is a fancy way of saying the ether. The implications are bottomless. It means interconnectivity of absolutely everything. The field that exists between the power lines is where the energy is, all the intersecting points. And once again, magnetism is the dielectric field. The field around a magnet is not an emission. If we actually were to believe these people, and I'm quoting these so-called experts, okay? I am quoting them when I just told you about virtual photons and magnets emitting them. Anything that emits something is discharging energy, like a battery, right? Eventually the battery gonna go dead, ain't it? Yeah, I know ain't's not a word. Ain't it? Yeah, Kind of like you start riding your bicycle and you're emitting energy, and eventually you're going to run like, ew, I can't do it anymore. I've biked 20 miles and I'm out of energy. I need to go eat something and rest, right? Well, a permanent magnet will sit there for, as long as it's not disturbed or heated, it will sit there for a perdurable eternity with a magnetic field around it, but it's not emitting anything. Anything that's emitting anything is discharging energy. These people will deny free energy, but they'll actually talk about a magnet as if it's a free energy device. They're talking about a magnet like it's a battery, that it's emitting something. Anything that's emitting something is releasing energy in the premise of force. And magnetism is definitionally the force. But the field around a magnet is not an emission, it's the disturbance of the ether, because a magnet, by definition, is qualitative. It's a qualitative field of a point source object. And this conjugate geometry of this polarized object, the point source object we call a magnet, creates a disturbance in and of the ether. And of course, all fields are ether perturbation modalities, and power manifestation, or so-called power generation, occurs from disturbing a magnetic field with respect to time. You introduce a temporal variable. There's already a temporal variable in the magnetic field anyway. This is called the Lamour frequency, or gyromagnetic precession. We're talking about the nothing that is everything, the medium, i.e. the ether, the undeniable ether. The only way you could explain the universe is the ether. I mean, these people are literally telling you that a magnet is emitting something. Well, a magnet isn't emitting anything. These red lines, once again, is the same field around AC power lines. It's the exact same geometry. This, of course, is the Charles Proteus-Steinmetz diagram in Electrical Discharges, Waves, and Impulses, published in 1917. But this is the real picture of the magnet underneath the supercell here. We have the exact same geometry. This is undeniable. I don't care what you believe in, and I definitely don't care. This is the exact same thing you see here as in Charles Proteus-Steinmetz's diagram over here, but it's also, too, the same field schema between two AC power lines. Once again, the dotted lines represent the dielectric, and this is the reason why power lines, when lightning strikes them, they swing together. You have a massive, massive boost in voltage. Voltage is equal to the dielectric, as magnetism is equal to amperage. It's not voltage that will put you 6 feet under. It's amperage, which makes sense because magnetism is force. Inertia won't put you 6 feet under. Force will put you 6 feet under, because inertia charges you up. Yeah, it recharges your battery. Force will put you 6 feet under. I mean, there's no person on this earth that will deny that fact. Force will put you 6 feet under. Every single time. What did you think magnetism was? The centrifugal force vector is equal to amperage. You up the amperage, the power lines will actually spread apart. This is an observed, well-known phenomenon. It's been known about for over 100 years in building the AC network that actually powers our world. A field around a magnet is not an emission. Magnets are not emitting anything. Once again, we get back to the shower head and the drain analogy. I mean, everybody can admit that that looks like a drain. I'm getting another text from my rich buddy here. He's like 80 years old, and he sends me annoying texts late in the evening. Everybody, I'll edit that out of this video. Everybody admit that this looks like a drain. Yeah? This is quite close to the shower head. Of course, the shower head water is the same water that goes down the drain, but none of us take a bath or a shower underneath the drain water. We take it underneath the shower head water or the faucet water. These are two things that have different expressions that are one and the same thing. That loss of energy or inertia, which comes out of this hole, i.e. the ether. This would be the dielectric, and this would be the magnetic. Dissipation of energy, we end up with a field. Of course, I will point out to you yet again for the 1000th time, there's not a single branch of science that has ever defined the word energy, and they have never defined the word field. Think about that, the shower head and the drain analogy, because it's nearly perfect. By the way, I wish everybody a Merry Christmas. I actually worked until 4 a.m. last night. It's Christmas. Here, he's going to send me another, oh, it's another guy. That's my real estate buddy. Shower head and the drain. This is also, too, the cosmic cross. The cosmic cross where these two intersect is right at the center of the plane of inertia. Now, let's show you the cosmic cross from down, top down, right? This would be the cosmic cross from top. There's nothing there. Cosmic cross would be right here. The cosmic cross top down is right here. This is the ring magnet. Here's the toroidal or donut field in the middle. And right here is the cosmic cross right at the center. There's nothing there. Exactly. Well, there's nothing there, then it's nothing. Nihil ex nihilo. From naught comes naught, right? Except people confuse nothing with not a thing. If something is not nothing, but it is not a thing, then this is a reference to metaphysics. This is a reference to the ether. This is a reference to noumena. This is a reference to the Spiritus Sanctum. This is a reference to rest, right? Here's the cosmic cross side on, right, from Charles Protean. Once again, this most important diagram in the universe. Instead of aliens landed, like, human beings know something at least. They at least know what this is. Actually, Steinmetz drew this, but he never mentioned its super, super incredible importance, and humans today don't know what this really means. I mean, I do, but here's the cosmic cross right here. It's the epicenter of the dielectric, and the cross section, once again, the right-hand rule, 90 degrees, right? Right here. That would be that little hole at the center of the torus, at the center of the other donut torus of the magnet. We have a torus and another torus and another torus, as I showed you in the first part of this video, that I added onto the front of this video. You could actually turn this 90 degrees either way, and you still have the same geometry. You have these curvilinear, intersecting, constructive and destructive, because force and inertia are mutually destructive. When magnetism is multiplicative, it's additive. When they're destructive, it's the same thing you see in the dual slit experiment. You just see simplex constructive and destructive interference. Same cross-section of the magnet. There's not a single video on YouTube and not a single article anywhere on the internet that will tell you what I'm telling you in this simple video. I hope you like the diagrams. Some people can't see things unless they have a visual representation. Once again, cross-section of a magnet here in the black box, and here we have the cross-section of the AC power lines. Both field geometries are 100% identical, but there ain't nothing between the AC power lines. Here we actually have a physical magnet, right? You know, like 2 inches by 2 inches by 2 inches, say, for example, an ice cube magnet. Well, it's all there. It's all a mass. There's something in between there. Here, there's nothing. There's just 2 wires that act as the boundary planes of the dielectric and magnetic field. You have the exact same diagram, but there ain't nothing here other than the 2 wires, right? There's nothing here, just 2 wires. There's nothing but a bunch of space in between them. Well, space has no properties. Once again, answer the question why power lines swing towards each other from a voltage increase and swing away from each other during an amperage increase. The answer is actually really, really, really simple. Where both of these meet right here at the cross section between the magnetic and the dielectric is the lowest pressure zone. That would be at the dead center of the hole, at the center of this hole. The center of nothing is the epicenter of the field. I will remind you too, at the center of what people call gravity, there is no gravity. At the center of a magnetic field, there is no magnetism. Everybody on Earth, including PhD professors, will tell you, well, you know, if you take the center of a really powerful magnet, is the magnetism most powerful there? Every one of them will tell you, sure is. Very powerful magnet, the center of it would be more of it. Just the opposite. This tells you, using retroductive apophaticism, that ancient lost Greek thinking methodology, tell you exactly what gravity is. They'll tell you exactly what magnetism is. At the center of these fields, there is none of that field. Yeah? Because look, the magnetism in this case is the bright lines, right? At the center of which, here's the center of the magnet on either quote-unquote pole. There's nothing there. There is no magnetism there. These are the drains, if you will, in the shower and drain analogy. And at the dead center of that, which we can't see, right here is absolutely nothing. But nothing is not to be confused with not a thing. It means non-phenomenal. It means metaphysical. It means ether-based. The ether is undeniable. There are countless hundreds of proofs of the ether. Center of this ring magnet, which I got it right over here, there's nothing there. However, you can see at the center of the ring magnet, we can see another torus right here. Yeah, the magnetic field being mediated as it's flushing its way down the drain towards rest. It's the reason why all vectors in the universe are curvilinear. But there's no magnetism at the center. You can stick a Gauss meter there. There's essentially none. None. All energy comes from counter space. True definition of energy is counter space itself. Space contains nothing. Space is nothing. Space is the negative image of pure potential. These people have everything upside down and backwards, and they have brainwashed you to think that space and time are things and the mediators out of things that we see and observe in the universe, and they are not. Everything I've told you in the countless thousands and thousands of videos that I've posted to you, rationally, simply, logically, honestly, beautifully, explain the universe in divine simplicity. Everything is unified, the center holds, and in their system, nothing holds. Everything is mishmash here, this here, that there. It's just helter-skelter. It's jabberwocky nonsense. They're literally passing out the crazy, and people are buying it. I'll take that. This guy's a PhD. He's got to be right. Who did your peer review? There's nothing running through the wires. If the power were running through the AC wires, then you wouldn't actually have this enormous... An induction coil wouldn't work. But they do. There's thousands of it. Don't ever do it. It's dangerous. Don't ever do it. It could arc over to the induction coil and take you out. Don't ever do that, though. It's very dangerous. But I mean, there's thousands of videos of that. These people have never defined the word field, and they've never defined the word energy. And that ain't my opinion, girlfriend. That is a fact. Period. This is the cosmic cross. This is the explanation of the right-hand rule. It's the explanation of force and motion, inertia and acceleration. Everything is curvilinear, and everything is curvilinear because these are the competing principles of force and motion, inertia and acceleration, or the centrifugal and the centripetal. It's like saying the competition between the shower head and the drain water. They're mutually canceling each other out. Not that that's a perfect analogy, but you get the point. You know, you got the shower head water, not literally fighting the drain water, but in the case of our fields, they're kind of fighting. They're canceling each other out. They're either additive, constructive, or they're destructive. It's all really simple. Makes nature really, really simple. When you understand the conjugate field of the yin and the yang of the universe, and there's no video on YouTube like this. There isn't one. I love doing stuff that's original, stuff that no one else will show you or explain to you. There's nobody else talking about this. This is the most honest diagram of the entire universe, the yin and the yang of the universe, the magnetic and the dielectric, and the superimposition of both, and the mutual construction and the mutual destruction of both as against each other. But I mean, they're not two different things. It's like saying ice and water. There ain't no such thing as ice in the water. Ice in the water. It's ice of the water. But of course, in English, we don't say ice of the water, but that is what it is. It's ice of the water. We should be saying not magnetism among the dielectric, rather magnetism of the dielectric. But in English, we just don't say stuff like that, but that's how it should be said. I hope you like these videos. I wish you a happy 2026 New Year. If you like these videos, any donation is always warmly welcome. Check out my free Substack in the description below. There's also 2 donation links there. Anything is very helpful. S Novым Годом, увидимся. Happy New Year. Kwanzaa, Festivus. Everybody keeps talking about Festivus. You know, that Seinfeld thing. Thanks for watching. Okay?
All right, all right, all right. Very, very well said. I approve of that message there and the way he put it. I hope y'all watching on a bigger screen because, you know, it's just better. You know, you see a little more detail, but if not on your phone, that's all right too. As long as you get the gist of what was just talked about, the lesson in it, right? The simplicity of nature and how God created this world, and um, the divineness, like you said about it. And when you have a magnet, right, a ring magnet like that, and you see these what would be called portals, and the if y'all are familiar with Victor Schauberger and his work with vortex implosion type of technology, with water, you would know that at the point of entry, right, when let's just say the water in the funnel, when he pours in the water at a certain angle, and as it tapers down to the exit point at the bottom of the funnel, right? That is what this guy was just explaining about rest, right? And the exit of the magnetic forces, right? At that point in the middle of the ring magnet, there is actual rest, so there is no movement, right? It's just still. So that's why it's black. And the same thing around the ring of it, right? The torus will outline, right, where the magnetic forces are not pushing, but you could just say where the magnetic forces are present, right? It's and it's a circle, perfect, perfect shape of a circle, will create the entry and exit points. The nodes are called nodes of the torus, right? And depending on the strength of the magnet in our field, what modern day science would call space, right? There's nothing there. It's empty. It's void. So but it is present. This is our domain, right? So these proofs with the magnets are a great example of all it's doing. These ring magnets is disturbing our environment, our ether. So it's a modality, right, of movement to so our eyes just realize what's happening, right? Our comprehension of it. Well, anyways, I don't want to ramble on. I'm gonna exit out of here and play my song. It's called "Wake 'Em Up." And thank you all for being here. God bless. And I'll see you before the new year. So I should probably be back on either tomorrow um, or shortly after if I don't come on tomorrow. So yeah, but let me exit out of this. And this song is called Wake 'Em Up. And I hope y'all enjoy. Have a good night. Chase trends. Find it to put in. Trying to let it out. Speak love comes. Verse the land. The first word. Let's see. It's real, man. It needs some action packed verbs. Gotta move with intention.